Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles. A runaway Addison teen is found, and an Oxford man is charged in the Thanksgiving shooting at an elementary school building.
Stay tuned to learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. A 15-year-old Addison Township runaway is back home after being found in Lapeer. According to police, the youth left a note informing his parents he planned to use his well-studied survival skills to live in the woods of northern Michigan. Shortly after his disappearance, an alert was sent out over social media, television networks, and radio. For the entire weekend, he was missing. Social network media pinned the youth all over the state. The boy, who admitted he made a mistake, was eventually spotted about 22 miles from home, and sheriff's deputies were notified, and he was returned to his Addison Township home without incident.
In order to improve and update 4 of Oxford Township's parks, the board approved a $2 million bond proposal to be placed on the ballot in the November election. Township Parks and Recs Director Ron Davis asked for the bond because the township residents told him attention was needed in those parks. Davis stressed that it's been over 40 years since some of the parks and recs areas have been updated. Davis said the bond money would replace damaged security lights, cracked asphalt, paving lots, replacing lots, bad retaining walls, boat launches, and a pavilion roof at Stony and Seymour Lake Parks. In addition, nearly $300,000 will be spent at Powell Lake Park and $75,000 to further develop Oakwood Park.
Police ballistics experts have determined bullets fired from a .380 caliber semi-automatic handgun into the Oxford Middle School building last Thanksgiving came from a weapon held by 19-year-old Alexander Bogus. At the time, Bogus was on a 2-year probation for another crime. He now faces a possible 5-year felony charge for malicious destruction and a felony firearms charge that carries a mandatory 2-year sentence. Bond was set at $25,000 and Bogus remains in the Oakland County Jail waiting his day in court.
After some intense discussion, the Oxford Township Zoning Board of Appeals approved a zoning variance for an electronic sign requested by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. A representative of the church, Ryan Youngblood, was not happy about the height reduction imposed by the township.
What you guys have just approved is for us to purchase $35,000 of a device and put it in the water and the snow. So I got a 6-foot variance you guys just gave me, right? 3 foot for digital and 3 foot for backlit. So I have to take 6 foot and put it right on grade. We're taking a 10-foot sign and we're giving ourselves a 6-foot sign that is now going to be ruined within the first snow and water moisture, from my understanding. And our current sign has a pedestal with an address. We've now lost all mechanisms for an address. And by the way, to your point, Mr. Butler, we've had several occasions where we've had people during potlucks and events where the ambulance cannot find us in a fast fashion. So as far as what's been allowed, I'm disappointed by what's been allowed here. And I have a question for you guys. Would you A, invest $35,000 into a device like this and put it on the ground? And B, maybe I am better off, or the church is better off to wait until you guys maybe consider the signing ordinances and realize that there's people out there investing in $35,000 plus, and there's no way out of this.
Chair Jim Butler attempted to ease the representative's mind.
We've heard your concerns. We've been down this road several times. This board has been extraordinarily consistent about the height of the signs in this township. We've assigned an ordinance to address that.
Well, I think we've come a long way from 32 square feet and no illumination. So I think we've been very accommodating, and I think we need to be consistent amongst all of our industries and businesses, and you're right with everyone else.
ZBA Chamber member Callie Rosner suggested Mr. Youngblood go to the Township Planning Commission.
I would recommend that you come and speak at a planning commission meeting. You know, we're reviewing our ordinances. You know, you can go to the building department and, you know, write a letter to the planning commission chair, you know, about this and state, you know, what you would like to see in your community, because that's really what's important is the consistency and what everyone wants. The community voted on this ordinance, and it's our job to uphold it. And so this is the best we can do with, what we have here.
A local businessman and local activist, Thomas Michael Lepping, age 70, passed away suddenly on March 7th at his home. He is survived by his wife, Jeanette, 2 sons, and several grandchildren. He was a graduate of Oakland University and University of Michigan. He served as chief landscape supervisor for Oakland County, and for many years, he was a familiar face serving on the Oxford Township Board of Trustees. Thomas Lepping will be deeply missed by all who knew him.
The kids at Daniel Axford Elementary School got a jump on spring at their annual spring fair. The crowd played fun games and were provided with food and refreshments. The kids had a great time and said that they look forward to next year.
The Oxford Township Planning Commission reviewed final site plans for the Manitou Hill subdivision, while Scott Kawakowski, representing Weaving Lakes of Lindenwood subdivision, stated that the majority of the items of concern that they had have been met.
Last time I was up here, we brought forward 13 items of concern. Some of them were more so directed at the engineering piece of it, which was the water pressure, et cetera. We've heard many of them have been addressed. Then probably most important to us was the value of the homes and making sure that the homes that were going to be built there were substantially similar. I guess I used the term mirrored what was in Lakes of Indianwood. Providing that the last set of deed restrictions that I received on Monday are the same ones that have been submitted. I would say in balance, they are very similar.
A 5-4 motion was passed to approve the site plan with conditions, and Chairman Todd Bell explains why he said no.
My nay vote is absolutely because of there are too many loose ends. The document not matching what you gave them. I think that's unfair, that we're reviewing something old when you've presented them and agreed to them, to the public, in something new. I think that's not good business practice. So that was my reason for the no vote.
Those people, those ZBA people, have put a lot of time and energy into that neighborhood out there. And understandably, I'm glad to see that they're looking out for everybody's interests. But, they do that as volunteers, basically. Yes, they get a stipend, but...
Well, they have to go through, of course, all the legalities of it. As you know, ZBA
right.
is the board that has the legal ability
the
to...
Supreme Court of your
Supreme Court.
community, right?
Yep.
Yeah, right.
So they're the last, well, they're actually not the last stop, because people can actually appeal this to the circuit court, if they're not happy with
Sure.
it. But in most cases, courts will throw it out if the ZBA is ruled in a certain way.
Right, it's the last stop
So,
in our community, that's for sure, yeah.
It is.
And I appreciate the fact that they put so much time and energy into learning about
Yep.
what they are presiding over.
Yep.
You can
Kudos.
tell those people read their packets before they go into those meetings.
They do.
which,
Yep.
I know a lot of them don't have time, but they do it anyhow, and I really appreciate that about them. And speaking of volunteers, you were talking about Orion Oxford Fish.
Yes, and talk about an organization that,
Yeah.
they help virtually everybody. I
Yeah,
mean,
they sure
people
do.
that are in need, for clothing, for food, all those
Yeah.
kind of things, and multiple townships as well,
Right,
Addison
Orion and
Township,
Oxford,
Orion,
yep,
so great organization.
They have a lot of events like Easter holiday coming up right now, where they really need to get food out to people, those food baskets, and they need help doing that.
Right. So if you'd like to volunteer, look,
Oh, give 'em a call.
yeah, give them a call.
We have the number up on our screen, and keep an eye on the weekly calendar that Elgin does, or just look them up on the internet. That's easy
Yeah.
enough too.
Or they can contact the village too. They would have the
That's
information
right.
there, as well as the
Everybody's-
township.
yep,
Everybody
everybody.
in this area knows who they are.
Yeah.
One other area of volunteerism they need is for the Seymour Lake Festival coming up for Parks and
right.
Recreation. That is a big undertaking in
deal.
this area.
Yeah, it sure
And
is.
they can sure use the help. Contact Ron Davis at Parks and Rec in the township.
Right. And if you don't want to volunteer, at least go to the Easter drop
Yep.
They're having a big Easter egg drop, and that is so fun every year to see all the kids
Yep.
have fun. But that's it for Oxford News this week. If you want to learn more about these stories and others, stop by your local store and pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader newspaper, or better yet, catch us right here on Charter Channel 191 or AT&T Channel 99.
And coming up next on OCTV, Oxford Sports with Jamie Hughes, and catch Oxford School News with John Ochins, and don't miss Auto Talk and Science in the News with Dave Kenny.
I'm Terry Stiles, and this is Oxford News This Week, where we bring your news closer to home.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, it has taken a while, but Europe and Russia are going back to Mars. By March 14th, that is, the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, or TGO, should have blasted off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan aboard a Proton rocket. Its mission? To understand the planet's atmosphere and search for signs of biological and geological activity. Assuming all goes to plan, the craft will arrive on the red planet by October 19th. It carries a small lander called Schiaparelli that will touch down on the surface, giving the European Space Agency and Roscosmos much-needed landing practice for a future ExoMars rover due to launch in 2018. Connecting gases in the air to their origin on the surface is key to figuring out whether Mars is as dead as it seems, and TGO's top priority is methane. The gas breaks down in sunlight after a few hundred years, meaning that any found on Mars must have been produced recently, either by active volcanoes or gas-belching microbes. If there is methane, it needs to be supplied continuously from somewhere, says project scientist Håkan Svedum. Whatever TGO finds, don't expect results straight away. Although the spacecraft will likely snap some pictures and make a few measurements to confirm everything is still working after its interplanetary trip, the mission's actual science phase won't start until the end of 2017. That's because the probe reaches Mars traveling at thousands of kilometers per hour and has to spend about a year slowing down by gently grazing the atmosphere, a process called aerobraking. ESA has had practice to run this in 2014 with its Venus Express craft just before that mission came to an end. We've got quite a good experience now from doing it with Venus Express, says Svedum. First, ExoMars must actually get off the ground. The mission has a 12-day launch window should weather and other issues delay efforts at launch time, but Svedum is feeling positive they won't need it. We're quite confident that it will work out, he says. Everything really looks very good now. Everything is ready now, and we think we will really go on the 14th. Good luck. And on the medical front, when you're fighting a urinary tract infection, you might not want to dwell on the details of what's going on down there. But there's been a long-standing mystery about these common infections. How do the offending bugs manage to climb up into your bladder without being flushed out when you pee? The answer is that they can grip tightly to the body's cells whenever they feel the force of urine flowing past. When urination stops, the mechanism releases and the bacteria carry on, moving upwards to further into your body. The discovery is useful because it means that the urinary tract infections could be treated without antibiotics. Drugs that target this machinery would not kill the microbes, just stop them from hanging on. So they should be less likely to provoke resistance, says David Brown of the charity Antibiotic Research in the UK, who was not involved in the study. About half of all women experience urinary tract infections at some point in their lives, and men can get them too. They are usually caused by E. coli from feces reaching the urethra, the tube that connects the bladder to the outside of the body. We already know that E. coli can grip to human cells using hair-like appendages that have tiny protein hooks on their tips. But until now, no one had worked out how the structure of this protein, called FIMH, is, or how it interacts with the human cells. The hooks are made by interlinking chains of FIMH, which are difficult, that is, to pull apart into separate protein molecules without altering their structure. Now researchers in Switzerland have managed to isolate individual FIMH molecules for the first time, allowing them to investigate the protein's physical properties. They found that when FIMH is pulled by tensile forces, as it would be during urination, the protein responds by gripping tightly to the sugar molecules that grip the surface of human cells. That makes it hard to flush out, says Tim Mayer of the University of Basel. When urination stops and the force disappears, the protein releases its grip and the bacteria can advance up to the bladder, a cozy home with a more stable temperature and pH than the urethra, where it causes cystitis. Antibiotics are the best treatment for cystitis, but antimicrobial resistant UTIs are a growing problem. In the UK, antibiotic resistance is relatively rare, affecting only about 2 to 10% of all infections treated with antibiotics. But widespread resistance to several types of antibiotics has been reported in UTI-causing microbes. In some countries, resistance to E. coli is so widespread that UTIs are effectively untreatable. Targeting the bacteria's grappling hooks could get around this problem, and the team is currently testing new drugs that block FIMH in animals, and good luck with that. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back.
I'm John Ochins, and welcome to the Oxford Wildcats School Update. The spotlight has been on our leadership class lately at the Oxford High School. For one thing, they just wrapped up a charity week which included a number of projects to raise needed funds. All in all, they hope to raise around $5,000 to donate to Special Olympics, among others. Teacher Katie Getz is the leadership coordinator. She tells us more about Special Olympics and the recent Paws versus Claws game we had here in Oxford.
A couple things happens with this game. One, it brings our Lake Orion and Oxford communities together and allows us to not be rivals for once, to come together and band together as a community. The second outcome is to highlight these wonderful athletes. These guys have worked so hard to do, or to be on this basketball team that they've created, and their bowling teams and their swim teams, and we just wanted to be able to highlight them and allow them to shine just as other athletes are.
Now, was this the game today? Was it part of the so-called Special Olympics program or not?
No, this is something that the Lake Orion advisor, Lori Hogan, leadership advisor, and myself have come together to create this event. And this is, I think, our third or fourth year that we've done this.
Now, you have to play them again in their court, I believe, don't you?
Yes, on St. Patrick's Day, we're going down on March 17th. We'll be traveling down to Lake Orion and competing over there.
Student Christine Brazington is in the leadership class. She also participates in DECA, an organization encouraging various business specialties. Christine's specialty is public relations. She oversees 11 committees in the high school and talks about how this phases into DECA.
This year we were able to host the regional event, which is a very big opportunity for us, and we had a really good turnout for it, and it was held at the Oakland Schools in Pontiac, and it was really successful. Our theme was Growing Good Leaders, and overall that was really successful.
So that was quite an honor. Everything turned out as good as you wanted it
Yep,
to?
everything turned out really good.
Okay, very good. Is there anything on the horizon with those folks coming up?
Yeah, we are going to the state competition. So,
Where's that going to be?
it's at the Grand Traverse Hotel. At the other regional events that we go to, we had two groups of three present, and one group presented on the pause game, and one also presented on the clap in the clap out events that we hold. So we were able to present a 40-minute PowerPoint at the regional event, and there was judges in those, and they judge you, and like the top scorers within the region are able to go to the state conference and present at the state conference.
Okay, so you're going to the state conference,
We're
right?
waiting. We should know if we made it soon. We don't know yet, but we should be able to know. But no matter what happens, we still have I think 15 kids from our school still are able to go to the state conference just to watch other presentations and stuff. But it's a huge deal if we.
The Troubadours came to Clear Lake Elementary the other day. That's a string quartet from the Flint Symphony Orchestra. For every year they select a special theme for kids and promote it through their music and storytelling. This year the group has a special local connection. Former Oxford Orchestra director Bill Milicevic decided to string along with the group. Our Ashley Point paid him a visit out at Clear Lake. He tells us more about the Troubadours.
A string quartet featuring 2 violins, including myself, a violist, and a cellist, along with Sharon Boone, our storyteller, bringing this year Harambe, which is a special story about pulling together.
Just a reminder that we have a lot of special things coming up in our schools this spring. One of those is the 5th grade exhibition in our grade schools. That involves student group projects that are the culmination of the primary year International Baccalaureate program. We'll keep you posted on their progress. That's the Oxford School Update for this week. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.
Back with you on Oxford News this week, time for Oxford Sports, and, well, an interesting story. Steve Emmert stepped onto the basketball court for the very last time as a Lady Cats varsity head coach. That happened on the 29th of February. He ended his season on a 3-18 record, probably not the best record, 36-26 loss against Waterford Mott, the MHSAA District Finals. Out of his past 25 years of coaching, Emmert has spent the last 5 of them right here in Oxford. Emmert originally grew up in southern Illinois. He went to Roxana High School. He played 3 sports, cross country, basketball, and baseball. He was a point guard on the basketball team, a left fielder on the baseball team. Upon graduation, he then entered Peru State College in Peru, Nebraska, where he played baseball there until he graduated with a Bachelor of Science. He has a Master's of Arts from Wayne State University. Emmert spent 39 years in the Walled Lake Consolidated School System, where he was a teacher, a coach, administrator, and athletic director until his retirement back in 2011. While at Walled Lake Central High School, Emmert coached both varsity boys and girls basketball. When asked, is there a difference between coaching boys or girls, his response, adamantly, no. Although he believes every player he has coached is special, he did say there are some special players that did affect him during his coaching career. Some, of course, from the previous school. Becky Cummings, Katie Horton, Jenny Keeler, Christian Emmert, Ron Thompson, and Eric Leaf. They were all from Walled Lake. Oxford players Jessica Murphy, Miranda Murphy, Shelby Davis, Kelsey Harrison, Cheryl Bannis, and Abby Bukowitz, pretty much last year's front 5. Emmert said he was thinking about his 8 grandkids, and that actually led him to the retirement from coaching. He will be missed on the court. Congratulations to Coach Emmert and his next endeavor. The Oxford High School equestrian team has joined the ranks of Stanford, Santa Clara University, and the University of California, Berkeley. Davis, the Wildcats are now one of the handful of teams in the country Ariat International is sponsoring. The U.S.-based leader in equestrian footwear and apparel is partnering with the Covered Wagon Saddlery in sponsorship. The company typically sponsors collegiate athletes. We are very lucky. They're sponsoring this year's equestrian team. You'll see that in their sponsorship. Congratulations to a company and a local company for stepping up and helping out a sport, the equestrian team. Keeping up with the schedules, local news, and Oxford sports is always right there at your fingertips. They have their own website. It's one word, oxfordathletics.org. You can find the schedules, where they're playing, when they're going to be there, and what we have going on in the athletic department, oxfordathletics.org. Make sure to hit that. While you're on the web, check our website out. It's OCCTV.org. Hit the programs tab. You can watch on YouTube or our Peg Central on your iPad, phone, wherever you choose to watch when you're on the go. All of our programs are right there at your fingertips, no matter what you want to see, whether it's a bowling match, whether it's a meeting. Again, OCCTV.org. I invite you on the weekends to catch our sports. We broadcast that on Saturday and Sundays on TV between the hours of 1:30 and 6. Again, check it out. Again, if you missed anything, go to our website, OCCTV.org. That's going to wrap it in sports. Congratulations to the equestrian team. We look forward to seeing them on TV. Congratulations to Steve Emmert. Congratulations to you, and thanks for watching Oxford Sports on Oxford Community Television. See you next week, everybody.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, Fiat Chrysler Automobile said March 15th that it has eliminated covenants linked to the term loans of its U.S. unit FCA US, thus gaining full access to the subsidiary's cash. After completing a buyout of the U.S. unit in early 2014 and creating Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, the heavily indebted car maker has been seeking to restructure Chrysler's finances to be able to fully access the division's cash that until now was limited by a cap on dividends and debt covenants. Fiat Chrysler can now use the cash to help fund a product overhaul of key brands Jeep, Alfa Romeo, and Maserati by 2018, at which time the company has also said it will have eliminated its net debt. Fiat Chrysler Automobile said its FCA US entered into amendments to its term loans maturing in 2017 and 2018. These amendments represent a final step towards allowing the free flow of capital among members of the FCA group, as previously announced, and enabling access to the second $2.8 billion tranche of Fiat Chrysler Automobile's $5.6 billion syndicated revolving credit facility, the company said in a statement. It also said that FCA US made a $2 billion prepayment applied to the term loans, leaving an aggregate principal balance of the term loans of about $2.8 billion. And in Washington, major automakers plan to announce they have agreed to install automatic emergency braking systems in nearly all U.S. vehicles by September of 2022, three sources briefed on the plans said. The U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said in September there was a deal in principle with 10 automakers to eventually add the technology to prevent thousands of crashes a year. The final agreement includes additional automakers and was unveiled at a press conference March 17th in McLean, Virginia. The final agreement includes automakers representing more than 99% of U.S. light vehicle sales. Among those joining with the deal were Toyota, General Motors, Ford Motor Company, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, Honda Motor, and Volkswagen AG. Automatic emergency braking includes systems designed to prevent crashes in which drivers do not apply the brakes or fail to apply enough braking power to avoid a collision. Under the agreement, automakers will get slightly longer to add the technology to some vehicles with technical challenges, including some cars with manual transmissions. NHTSA Administrator Mark Rosekind told Reuters 2 weeks ago that a voluntary agreement that could get the safety technology into vehicles before a legally binding rule was preferable. We're very excited about this, Rosekind said, declining to confirm details. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, a group that helped reach the voluntary agreement with the automakers, has said as many as 20% of crashes could be prevented by the technology. Do the math. That's 5 million crashes per year. 20% reduction means 1 million less. Those are big numbers, Rosekind said in September. The National Transportation Safety Board and Consumer Reports have both called for making the technology mandatory in all vehicles. In 2012, rear-end crashes killed 1,705 Americans and injured 547,000 in the United States. About 87% of those deaths and injuries might have been prevented or lessened if vehicles had collision avoidance system because they were linked to driver inattention, researchers found. Former NHTSA Administrator Joan Claybrook said NHTSA should legally have binding rules. She said the deal was developed in secret with no public record of its factual basis, no legal requirement that companies comply, and no penalties if a company lies about its compliance. Rosekind has said it could take at least 8 years to get legally binding rules in place. Wow. Well, at Mercedes-Benz, move over Porsche Macan. AMG, the high-performance wing of Mercedes-Benz, has turned its wrenches on the GLC compact crossover. The AMG GLC 43, a V6 twin-turbo-powered two-row utility vehicle, will debut at the 2016 New York Auto Show. The 3-liter engine is rated at 362 horsepower and propels the 3,891-pound vehicle to 60 miles per hour in 4.8 seconds. The top speed of this SUV is limited to 155 miles an hour. The engine is mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission that drives all 4 wheels. To improve handling at higher speeds, Mercedes engineers tuned the all-wheel drive system to spend 69% of the torque to the rear axle and 31% to the front. Cosmetically, the AMG GLC 43 receives a new front fascia with different air intakes, 20-inch wheels, and chrome accents on the rear of the vehicle. The vehicle goes on sale late this year. Well, that's all for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highways. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back.